Welcome to our Week 3 video for Design 224 CAD Certification at Ivy Tech Community College. And in this video, we're going to be working through ACE Prep Exam 105, questions 1 through 5 for our Week 3 online activity. And your homework for Week 3 is to work through the rest of the questions by yourself. There's 10 questions total in this, so I split it into two parts. So we'll do questions 1 through 5 together today, and then you're going to do questions 6 through 10 on your own for homework. And I'll release the answers to these questions next week. Now, we're going through this video today, questions 1 through 5, and then this week I've also given you the answers to last week's homework. So your homework for week 2 was to do ACE Prep Exam number 113, questions 6 through 10. So if you look in our YouTube folder for this week, for week 3, I have the answers to last week's homework posted, questions 6 through 10. So if you tried it a couple times on your own and there were maybe 1 or 2 questions you couldn't figure out or you couldn't get them right, you can go back and watch the answer key for last week's homework and see what you were doing wrong or what you were missing. And then you can go back and attempt that practice test again after you see how to correctly do the problems. So today we're going to do questions 1 through 5, and then you can do 6 through 10 on your own for homework, and I'll release the answers in 6 through 10 next week as another video. So that's kind of the process that we're going to follow through this semester. Is we'll do half the questions together, and then you'll do the other half on your own for homework, and then the following week I'll give you the answers to them. So you'll notice that this test, ACE Prep Exam 105, is very similar to ACE Prep Exam 113, except that it has a little bit more of an architectural flavor to it. So Prep Exam 113 is more mechanically based, so you'll notice that the questions this week for Prep Exam 105 have more of an architectural flavor and deal a little bit more with walls and roofs and things like that. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into this. And this one's a little bit different because of the way we have to key in some of these measurements. So be very careful when you key in your answers that you follow this format. Now, on the actual AutoCAD Certified Professional test, I'll go ahead and tell you that when I took it, they don't use this format ever for any answers. They always use decimals. But for the purposes of this test, make sure that you key your answers in exactly like they show here. So make sure you use the marks for inches and for feet, and that you put a space in between your whole inches and your fractional inches. But on the actual test, you're not going to have to worry about formatting this because everything is going to be in decimals. But for our practice test, to make sure that you're getting them right and keying them in the correct way, key them in this format if it asks for feet and inches. Okay. And again, you can practice this exam as many times as you want. So try it a couple times. If you miss 1 or 2, go back and try it again. So we've got 5 questions that we're going to work through here. Each one is 2 points. So this test is worth a total of 10 points. And for the first one, they tell us to open up a new file using the iArc template. And then they're going to have us draw this wall with an array for these windows. Now, you'll notice that on this particular question, you can't really do this any other way than arraying it because they don't really tell us the center to center distance on these windows. Now, you could figure it out by math. If you know these windows are 3 feet wide and we have a total of 19'6" from one to the other, you could do the math on it and figure out where they go. But in the purpose of saving time, it's going to be a lot quicker if you just do it as an array. So I'm going to go ahead and jump over to AutoCAD. And then the iArc template is right here. It's tutorial-iArc, so that's the one they're referring to. So I'm going to choose that and go to Open. And here I have a new drawing from the iArchitectural template. So I'm going to go to Model, and they don't tell us a specific location for this wall, so I'm just going to start drawing it wherever. And I'm just going to use the line tool and go up 9 feet, and make sure you put in the apostrophe for feet. I'm going to go over 32 feet 8 inches. And now I'm just going to use my O track to make sure that this is squared up. So I'm going to come straight down and then track over to there. Now I'm going to go ahead and locate this first window that we know is, if we look at our drawing, 6 feet over and 2 feet up, and then the window is 3 by 5. So I'm going to use those dimensions for the first window, and then we should have 19'6" from this window down to the end. when I array it. So I'm going to go ahead and draw in the first one, and I'm just going to put a couple construction lines in here. So I'm going to go over 6 feet and then up 2 feet. And then I'm going to draw my 3 foot by 5 foot window. So 3, 5, and then O-track and finish the window. And I'm going to go back and delete my construction lines just by selecting them. And now I'm ready to actually array this. So I'm going to select that and go to a rectangular array. And in this particular case, I'm going to have 4 columns, but I only want 1 row. So I'm going to change that to 1. And they don't tell us the distance in between, but they do tell us the distance from the first one all the way to the last one. But AutoCAD uses this distance different than what they have put on the drawing. So notice here they've dimensioned from the left side of the first one to the right side of the last one. AutoCAD won't actually dimension it that way. AutoCAD will dimension from the left side of the first one to the left side of the last one. So I don't want to key in 19.6 as my distance. I actually want to take off this 3 feet and use 16'6" as my distance, because AutoCAD is going to measure to this side. So that's one of the things they're testing you on this question is, do you know how the array is measured in AutoCAD? And it's from the left side to the left side. So I'm going to put my total distance here as 16'6". Okay, then I'll go ahead and close this array. And then they've asked me, what is the distance between point A and point B? And to do this, I'm going to have to make sure that my midpoint O-snap is turned on, which it is. And A to B is the distance from the center of the top of this window to the center of the bottom of this one. So I'm just going to draw a line between there and then use the list command on that line to tell me the length. So the length on this line is 17 feet 2 7/8 inches. So I'm going to key it in exactly like it is right here, with the foot mark and the inch mark. So on this one I'm going to say 17 feet dash 2 space 7/8 inches. So the format here is important. Make sure you have the dash, the foot mark, the inch mark, the slash, and the space in between. Now they say, what is the total area of the wall minus the 4 windows expressed in the units of square feet? So basically, what is the area of this wall not counting the windows? And that's pretty easy to find if I just use my hatch command. So I'm going to delete this line out and then just go right into a hatch command. And it doesn't matter what pattern I pick or what the scale is. I'm just going to fill it in and go to close and then click that and go to list command. And that list command will tell me that the area in square feet is 234.0000 square feet. So on this one, I'm going to put that answer in exactly as it shows up. Okay, so 234.0000. And we're ready to move on to the next question. So I'm going to go ahead and save that answer and come on down to the next question. So on this one, they say start a new drawing file using the same architectural template, and they're going to have us draw a roof slope here. So they say draw the roof line below. The roof slope is 512. Now if you're not familiar, that means that for every 12 inches, I gain 5 inches of height. Or you could think of it this way, since this is 24 across, for every 12 feet of height, or for every 12 feet of run, I gain 5 feet of height. So in other words, we know if this is 24 feet across, halfway across would be 12, which means that the peak of the roof is going to be 5 feet high. So basically we're drawing this 24 across, and then in the midpoint it's 5 high. And then they tell us these fascia boards, which are right here, are offset 5.5 inches. So I have 5.5 inches from here to here. And then I have a 1 foot overhang on either side of the roof for the soffit. So I'm going to go ahead and draw that. So I have the same template open here, but I'm going to go ahead and close it out just to be safe and make a new one from the same exact template. And jump into my model space. And then I'm going to start drawing. In this particular question, it doesn't matter where I draw. So I'm just going to grab the line tool and go across 24 feet. And then I'm going to go right into the middle and go up 5 feet, because we know we have a 512 slope. and then I can connect to make the triangle. So here I have a 512 slope, and here I have a 512 slope. And I can actually delete this. We don't need that anymore. And then to make the fascia boards, I'm just going to use the offset command, which is right here, or you can type O on the keyboard. And they told me that those are 5.5 inches. So I'm going to say 5.5 inch offset. Pick this line, offset it up, and same with this one. And now I just need to do some extending. So this is a good chance to use your extension O snap. You can see I have mine turned on already because I use it pretty frequently, but if you don't, turn your extension O snap on here, and what that'll let you do is if you select the line, you can actually just extend off of it at its existing angle. So you don't even have to figure out what the angle is, you can just extend off of it. And you can see in my dynamic input it says extension, so I know it's maintaining that angle. So I'm just going to make these so they cross over, and then I can trim them off using the trim tool. So those match up nicely now. And then I can do the same thing down here, but first I'm going to draw a line straight up, and then I'm going to offset that by 1 foot, because I know I have a 1 foot overhang on the soffit. So I'm going to offset that 1 foot, delete this line, bring this straight down, and then just use my extend command to extend these lines over. And then I can trim them off. And I can do the same thing on the other side, but to keep life easy, I'm actually going to mirror this since I already have it fixed. So I'm going to use this as my midpoint and actually mirror it over to the other side. And then I can just extend these other lines. So I'm going to go into the extend command one more time, choose my overhang, and extend both lines. Okay, so we've got that soffit drawn up, and next they tell me to put some dimensions on here. So if I look, they say the text in the dimension style manager should be set to 0.188, make the dimension text annotative, and my annotation scale should be quarter scale. So back in AutoCAD, I'm going to go to my annotate menu and go into my dimension style manager. And you'll notice with this particular template, this is kind of a weird one because there's no annotative style. Usually you would have standard and annotative here, but for this particular one, there's no annotative. So we have to make it, and that's kind of what they're testing you on here. So I'm going to go ahead and go to new, and I'm going to copy the standard style when I make this, but I'm going to go ahead and call it annotative. And the trick here is it's going to take the standard settings and copy them all, but we're going to call it annotative and make it annotative by checking this box. So we're going to create our own annotative dimension style, even though there isn't one to begin with. So I'll go ahead and change those two things and hit continue. And now I can come in here and make the changes that they asked me to. So if I go to my text tab, I can change my height here for my text to 0.188 inches. And you'll see when you key that in, it will change it to fractional 3/16. So I'll hit OK. That's the only change I need to make. I'm going to select this and go to Set Current to make sure that it's my current dimension style, and hit Close. And you'll see up here I have an annotative dimension style now. And then down here I need to make sure that my annotative dimensions are turned on, and then I'm going to change my annotation scale here from 1:1 to quarter scale. Now I'm ready to dimension. So I'm just going to grab my linear dimension tool and place those two basic dimensions that they asked me right here, and then hit the space bar to repeat the dimension command and place the 1 foot dimension right here. Okay, so the first thing they ask me is, to the nearest inch, what is the actual dimension text height? So this is one of those questions, remember, where if you go to properties, since I'm using annotative text, it's not going to give you the true size, it's going to give you the scaled size, or basically what it will print as. So this text is going to print at 3/16 of an inch, but it's not really drawn at 3/16 of an inch if I scale it in my model space. So remember, if you want to get the true text height of an annotative dimension or an annotative text, you have to explode it. So I'm going to select this and explode. And remember, you can also find the explode command right here on your home menu. This looks like a blue cube exploded apart into pieces, so I'm going to hit that. Now you'll see this is broken apart into a bunch of little pieces, and if I pick that text, now instead of the scaled text height or the printable text height, it's going to give me the true text height of what this is actually drawn at, which is 9 inches. And that's what the question is asking for. So I'm going to go back and put in 9 inches. And next it says, what's the distance between point A and point B? So that's pretty easy. I can just do a list command on this line and figure out that distance. So I'm going to choose this line, and we'll just do a list command. And we see the length there is, let's try again, I'm not seeing that, so let's pick it and go to list. There we go. The length is 14 feet 1 inch. So that's our answer. So I'm going to go back to the test, and we'll say 14 feet dash 1 inch, no spaces. And we'll save our second question. So moving on to our third question, they've given us a roof plan here with some different hatch areas, and they say, using the same iArc template, we're going to draw what's shown below using a polyline, and these angles are 45 degrees, and then we're going to fill in the hatch patterns. And they're going to ask us a bunch of area questions about those hatch patterns. So this one I'm basically going to start in the corner, work my way around the outside, and then I'll go back and add in the lines for the roof slopes. So I'm going to go ahead and close this and make a brand new drawing. It's always a good idea to make sure you get a brand new drawing from the template in case you made any changes in there. Like when I just changed my dimension text height, it's a good idea to make a new drawing from the template so that everything's fresh and you don't have to worry about any changes that you've made. So I'm going to jump into the polyline command, and I'm going to start in the lower left corner and go up 7'6", then go left 13'6", straight up 14'6". I'll O-track back to here, go straight up 15 feet, over to the right 26 feet, go down 3 feet, over to the right 11 feet, down 18 feet, O-track back to square that up, down 16 feet, and then just to check, if I go back this way 26 feet, everything should match up, and it does. So there's my basic outside perimeter for this. And then I'm going to go ahead and add in my roof slope lines at 45 degrees. So just check your polar tracking right here and make sure you're set on some multiple of 45 degrees. So 15 or 45 would work. And for this one, I'm just going to draw them to where they overlap, and then I'll trim them off. And same thing up here. Okay, then we'll just go to the trim tool, trim off my overhanging lines here, and we're ready to start answering some questions. So I'm going to go back and see, they say, what is the total area of the hatches indicated by number 1 in the units of square feet? So on number 1 here, they've given us this bottom section and this bottom section. So I'm going to hatch both of those in together and see what the total is. So I'll just go to the hatch command, pick those two sections, and then do a list command on it. And the area there we can see in square feet is 263.6563. So I'll go back and key that in. And then we're going to say, what is the area of number 2 in the units of square feet? So the middle section here. So let's go back and hatch that in separately. And I'm going to go ahead and draw my line through here just to be safe. So we'll hatch in this and this, and then pick that middle section and do a list command. And we can see our area there is 828.4375. So we'll go back and key that in. And then finally, what is the cumulative area of all hatches in the units of square feet? So we're just going to hatch the whole thing in. And notice I'm using Alt-Tab to go back and forth between the test and AutoCAD, just like always, so that's good practice. I'm going to go to the hatch command, just hatch in everything. And then we'll do a list command to see what the total is. So that one we get 1,355.7500. We can key that in. And then finally, what is the length of the polyline in the units of feet and inches? So that's easy. I've already drawn the polyline. So if I do a list command on the polyline, I can see what its perimeter is. So I'm just going to pick right here and make sure everything is one continuous polyline. If you've broken it somewhere, then you're not going to get the right answer. So make sure you have a continuous polyline here. If you have separate segments, you can join them always using the pedit command. So make sure you have a continuous polyline. I'll go to list, and my total length is 175 feet and 0 inches. So I'm still going to type in the 0 inches here, even though there's nothing there. Make sure you still key it in. So 175 feet dash 0 inches. Okay, then on question 4, if we save here and keep going, on question 4, this is their favorite good old plotting question, which we've actually done one of these already from last week. So this is actually from your answer key from last week's homework. So if you want a more thorough explanation of this particular question and how to go through and test everything, you can watch the answer key for week 2. I'll show you how to go through and test these 4 options. But at this point, hopefully, this is pretty much a repetitive question and you're already familiar with it. So the object or the choice that would print all objects within the printable area of the paper or within the printable margin of my paper, that would be my layout. The one that plots objects in the rectangular area I define, that would be the window command or window plotting. The one that plots all objects in the drawing, that would be if I plot the extents or everything that I've drawn. And finally, the one that plots only objects currently visible in the drawing area, that would be if I plot the display of my screen. So if you want to see a more thorough explanation of how I go through and test all these and prove how they work, watch the answer key video for last week. But hopefully you've seen that already, and this is more of a review question. This is a really popular topic for the test. They love to give you questions about this plot area command right here. I can almost guarantee you that you'll get a question over this. Now, I haven't seen the new version of the test that you're going to be taking because I took an older version, but I would bet a $100 bill that you'll have a question over this particular topic. All right, so we'll save that and go on to our last question here. So on this one, we're working with title blocks and viewports. So on this one, we're using the same template that we have for the other questions, and they say go into your title block and delete the viewport inside there. Recreate 2 viewports shown below in blue-gray, so these 2, and ignore the print margins. Ours might be different. And then they're going to ask us the coordinates of point A and point B. So I'm going to go ahead and make my new file. So let's close this, save no. So remember, on the actual test, don't waste your time saving drawings. Just dump them and go on to the next one. All right, so we can see our standard viewport is right there. And remember, your viewport, if you're not familiar with viewports, your viewport is what lets you look back to your model space. Okay, so if I have something drawn in here, I can see what I've drawn in model space through that viewport. It's just a window back to your model space. Okay, but in this case, they're telling us to delete it. So I'm going to go back and take this stuff out. And then I'm just going to delete the viewport out of my layout tab. And then they want us to draw in 2 new ones. So in my particular version of AutoCAD that I'm using here, I can add layouts or add viewports in my layout tab up here, which you can see right here. In older versions of AutoCAD, this can be found in different places. So sometimes it's on the Insert tab, sometimes it's on the View tab. So for some reason in the last 3 or 4 releases of AutoCAD, I think they've moved this viewport button every single time. So in the current version I'm using, which is 2016, it's on the Layout tab. In the last couple versions, I think it was on the View tab. So search those different tabs until you find this button that says Rectangular. And that's going to let me create a new viewport. So I'm going to pick that, and then our first viewport actually snaps from midpoint to midpoint on our title block. So I'm actually going to create a rectangular viewport from here down to here. Then the second one's a little bit more tricky because I have to put in these exact measurements off of the first one. So it should be 2 11/16 down from here to here and 7/8 of an inch over from here to here. So I'm just going to draw in a couple of construction lines to get that in the right spot, and then I'll come back and draw my second viewport. So I'm just going to go to my line tool, and I'm just going to draw down 2 11/16 inches. Oops, let's try that again. There we go. Make sure you put the dash in instead of a space bar. Space bar accepts the command, so it's been a little while since I used architectural units. And then this one is supposed to be 7/8 of an inch. Okay, so double check your measurements there, and then I can go back to my layout tab or wherever your viewport button is and pick my viewport command, and then I'm just going to use my O-track to make sure that this matches up where it's supposed to. So I'm just going to make sure that that viewport hits both of those endpoints, and I can delete them. All right, so if we go back to the question now, they say, using the ID command, what are the XY coordinates in paper space of point A and then of point B? So we need to give them the XY coordinates for each of these 2 points. So point A is 1 foot 4 3/8 and 8 13/16. And make sure you key in the whole thing, so key in the 0 feet also. Okay, so this is one you might want to jot down on a piece of paper and then jump back and forth. So I'm going to say 1 foot 4, 1 foot dash 4 space 3/8 inches. And my Y coordinate is 0 feet dash 8 inches and 13/16. Okay, then we're ready to look up point B. So I'm going to go back and do an ID command on point B. And this one is 1 foot 5 1/4 and 0 foot 11 1/2. So jot those down on a piece of paper, on your scrap paper maybe. Go back and key them in. And then we'll save it. And at that point you can go ahead and submit and see what your score is. So that's kind of a walkthrough of our first 5 questions here to give you a little bit of practice with some more of this AutoCAD test prep. So go through those 5 questions on your own and submit them. And you'll get 10 points for completing those if you arrive at the correct answers like I did. And then again, your homework for this week is to go through and complete questions 6 through 10. And also, if you had any problems with last week's homework, watch the answer key video for last week's homework and correct any of the mistakes that you made in ACE Prep Exam 113, questions 6 through 10. So go through and try these on your own. Give it a shot. Let me know if you have any problems. You can email me, as always, jhamilton83@ivtech.edu. Or if you're nearby the Indianapolis campus, you can always stop by my office. It's T316 on the 3rd floor of the Glick Technology Building. So try last week's homework, try this walkthrough, try your homework for this week, and hopefully all of this stuff together is going to get you ready to pass the AutoCAD Certified Professional Exam when we take it in week 8 of the semester. So good luck. Let me know if you have any problems, and I'll see you in the next video.